All right, welcome. I'm Zach, also known as Loquitur from Loquitur Gaming, and I'm going to do a little bit of a different thing today than I usually do on the channel. So I have been streaming some playthroughs on YouTube for about 2 months, and I thought it would be kind of interesting to record what some of my experience has been in the first 2 months, just kind of from a perspective of a new content creator in the board game space here on YouTube. I've got some notes here, so it's gonna at least hopefully have the appearance that I have some kind of thought process with this and it isn't just rambling. I'm not an expert at content creation at all or anything. Again, I just thought it would be kind of interesting to record now what I thought of how this process was going so early on in doing content creation here on YouTube. So the three big topics that I thought about talking about here were my motivations in starting content creation, what have I learned, and some other observations in the last 2 months, and what does the future look like here on my channel, Loquitur Gaming. So starting with my motivations. A couple weeks ago, I was asked by somebody that has a lot more experience than me in content creation what my goals with the channel are. And I really appreciated the question, and it was a very thought-provoking question. Because when I first started doing this, I really didn't have any actual goals in mind. My initial motivation was just, play some games. I, like most other board game people, probably have way too many unplayed games on my shelf and also way too many unpainted minis, just collecting dust. And in this time of quarantine and stuff, I thought it would be, something to pass the time to play more of these games. I do play games with my family, but my wife really doesn't like co-op games. She more likes to actually beat me in games. So I have found in trying to play with my daughter and her some games like Seventh Continent, and we tried to play Mice and Mystics. She didn't really take to those too well, although she is enjoying. We just started a family playthrough of Jaws of the Lion. She is actually enjoying that, but I think it's because she actually has her own deck of cards and her own stuff that she needs to figure out what to do. So that was pretty much the big motivation, was to get some more games on the table, get some more games played. Also, I like to learn continually, and the technology of streaming, because I haven't been doing any recording and editing of video. I've just been doing everything as streams and then making those streams public on the channel. So this was all new things to learn in this for the technology on how to do these kind of streams and this kind of content creation. So I really just wanted another thing to pick up and learn, and I thought this would be a fun thing to do for that. Also, I thought it would be an interesting way to, just interact with other members of the board gaming hobby, other community members in the board gaming space, either through, comments in chat or in other channels, things like that. A way to get more in touch with the board game community, the people who like the same games that I do. And also to hopefully create some content that people might enjoy. I think that's this wasn't a motivation at the start, but I think this has become a goal, and that was one of the things that I really thought about when I was asked that question about what the goals with the channel are. So the next big thing that I wanted to touch on was what have I learned in other observations. So coming into this there was a lot to learn about the technology. I had no idea how OBS worked, so I did a lot of searching on YouTube and watching other videos of how to set up OBS, how to use OBS, how to use OBS in connection with the YouTube streaming, which they now have gone to the live control room versus what they had before. I didn't know anything about cameras. I had a couple of webcams laying around and a DSLR, but I hadn't used it for anything like this before. So there was a lot to learn about cameras and about lenses. Lenses still are interesting to me, that wider angle with a lower number on the lens. I haven't looked too much into it, but I still don't understand that. That was completely counterintuitive for me. From something as simple as how do you build the top-down mount? I have this top-down mount here, something to put the camera on to get the shots. That was several days of trying a bunch of different rigs before. What I actually ended up getting was I ordered a really cheap, what's supposed to be a portrait background frame, and I got some clamps, and the camera's clamped to that. So that was an interesting project, was figuring out how to mount the camera to get the top-down view. Learning about green screens and chroma keys and all that kind of stuff. And also, you can kind of look at where my channel is currently. If you look through the very first videos, there's like no thumbnail to some very generic thumbnails to where now I'm experimenting more with thumbnail design and thumbnail layout. And I don't know how exciting or interesting any of them are, or how the one for this video is going to look, but even just that, that has been an interesting learning experience. Learning about lighting has been interesting, and I don't know how many different times I had to test audio. Is this lapel mic that I have actually picking me up? Do I need to put a gain filter on this in OBS and that kind of stuff? One quick note on this, that sounds like a long list, and I don't know if anybody who might be thinking about getting into content creation is ever going to watch one of my videos or this video, but hopefully doesn't sound like an overwhelming list. I did not learn all of this stuff before I started. I think one of the best pieces of advice that I saw on one YouTube video was just start, just do it. And a lot of my first videos that are on the channel were me just testing out different settings and different equipment and playing a game while I was doing it. I think my very first one was terraforming Mars, and the quality on that, it was just an old webcam, just to see how things would work and see how things would look. So if you're thinking about it, just do it, just start, and things will get worked out. And I'm still learning. I'm going to talk about other things that I'm going to be hopefully learning about and doing in the last section. So what else have I learned, or what other observations have I come across? Let's see. The community. I think the board game community, at least so far, has been extremely helpful, from some other content creators to people who leave comments on the videos. Everybody's been extremely helpful and extremely receptive. So that has been great so far in these first couple of months. Now, I know it is the internet, and there are some very busy bots out there, because you do get some interesting, obviously spam or bot created comments on some of the videos. So you have to make sure to watch and get rid of those. That's been the comment section has been one of my favorite parts actually so far, is interacting with people who do leave comments on the videos. So and that kind of touches on with the next point, the people who have been leaving comments. The next point, the thing, observation that I've made is, and I wrote it down here in my notes, rules are hard. I used to kind of think of myself as a rules lawyer. Not like, I hope I wasn't like an annoying about it, but I used to think that I was, fairly good at remembering rules. But playing on camera and watching some stuff back and interacting with some people who've been really helpful with learning or pointing out rules that I've made mistakes on in the videos, which I actually love. That's how you learn and pay more attention, I think, to those things that you've missed later, is by people doing that. But it's really highlighted to me just how easy it is for rules. As you're playing along in a game, rules will just slip right out of your mind and as you're plugging along and just doing it. I was really recently listening to the Dice Tower podcast, and I wrote these down because I wanted to make sure that I got these right, so you could go check these out. The conversation kind of started on episode 667, and then it continued into 669, and it's the segment on the Dice Towers podcast that's done by Jeff Engelstein. I can't remember what it's called, like Game Tech or something like that. But there's a part where Jeff Engelstein is talking in these two podcasts about this thing called social facilitation. And the basic idea of that is, if someone is good at something, then if there's a crowd watching them, or even a perceived crowd watching them, they tend to be better at it. If they're good at it, or if they're experienced at it, then they tend to be good at it or better at it while a crowd is watching. if someone's new to something, or it's not a particular skill that they have, and there's a crowd watching them, or even a perceived crowd watching them, then they tend to make more mistakes, or they tend to be perform worse at it than they might normally do. If you go and listen to that podcast, the discussion started around how sports teams might be performing during this COVID-19 time while there's not actually a crowd watching them, and a little bit on how the home team advantage might play into it. But then in the second episode in 669, they actually talk about this interesting study that was done with cockroaches, and how cockroaches performed in doing certain tasks in front of other cockroaches. It's kind of interesting. But I thought it was extremely timely because these are, as a recording of this, these are very recent podcasts. And while I was listening to it, I was thinking, man, I wonder if this is contributing a little bit to me making more mistakes, because there's a perceived crowd, this camera is watching me play the game. And I play a lot of new games to me on the channel, so where I'm not completely familiar with the rules. So that might be contributing a little bit to the mistakes that I've made. Now, after I get past episode 7 or 8 in a particular series, that no longer can be an excuse. I should be pretty familiar with the game by then. Those mistakes I'll just chalk up to being a bad player. Something else that I found as an observation in doing the style of videos that I've been doing, or streams of playing a game live and through without any editing or anything, is I didn't really appreciate at first the maybe it's perception of mine, but the need for like constant narration. Because I don't think it would be interesting for anybody to sit there and just watch me be quiet for 5 minutes while I think about what my next move is going to be. So I'm constantly finding myself thinking I should be talking about what I'm thinking my move is going to be, or the next thing I'm going to do is. So let me check my notes. I think that wraps up for the stuff that I've written down as observations that I've made over the last couple of months. So what do I have in mind for future things that I want to do on the channel? Obviously, to tie this back to the original motivations, play more games. I want to play some more campaign games. I just started Gloomhaven. I've got a ton of solo campaign games, and I'm pointing over at my game shelf that's collecting dust over there. I also want to do some Euro games. There are some that have solo modes, and I might try some multi-handed stuff, since it's difficult to get a game group together right now. And I really started in this hobby as kind of a Euro gamer, and not really a like story-driven, theme-driven type of game player. So Euro games are kind of really where my heart is at, like worker placement type stuff. Like one that I have planned for the near future is I want to get Brass Birmingham to the table again. I really like that game. Also continue to learn. As you can see, this is just another stream of me recording off of a webcam. So I might want to learn some actual video recording and editing. I have never done anything like that before, so no editing software, nothing like that. So I might do some of that. I want to continue improving the quality of the equipment that I have and the content that I put on the channel. And something new, it's not going to be like groundbreaking or anything, but I've never done timestamps in any of my videos. So I think this video I'll take the opportunity to actually do timestamps. It's not really learning anything, but it's something new. All it really is just putting in the description the time and the topic, but it's something new. And then maybe real-time streaming for more live interaction, schedule permitting. It's really hard for me to, because of my work, to schedule a consistent live time to actually make sure that I'd be home to do some streaming, which is kind of one of the reasons that I do it in this format. So we'll see. I'm hoping that one day I can actually schedule some streaming. All right. Again, I wanted to keep this, hopefully it's short and sweet, about 15 minutes in it looks like now. just talking a little bit about how the last couple months of me as a new content creator have gone. I hope you found some of this actually interesting. So one other observation, and I kept this for the end here because it relates to the end, is I haven't really thought of an outro or a thing to say at the end of all of my streams, but I think what it ends up being is something like I hope you enjoyed and I'll see you next time. So if you did find this interesting, or if there's anything else that you want to know, any questions that maybe I can do in a future vlog, leave comments down below. And I'll say it now, that I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.